In this video, we will discover Blender's shaders interface. So here, what we have is a basic scene that I did create with some stuff that comes from here, a scene that is here, that you can find always, as usual. This here, you will find it over there into cycles. I can go quicker here, I guess. Yeah, into cycles, from what I remember, it's here, okay, the Italian flat, so thanks to Flavio della Tomasa for this. And here I just have some chairs, a table, a Suzanne, and two objects beside. And when I look at it in render view, we have this kind of render. So here we have a basic Suzanne with a green and red objects beside. Like this, we have some reflections. We can have some reflections. And here we have the studio setup that we did create together behind. Okay, it's exactly the same setup. So basically what I will do, I will go into the shading tab. I will select Suzanne and we have a new interface here that I will show you. Here we have the selection file that we can just open the files that you have on your computer, and you can just select textures here. Here you can open some textures as well, and you will see directly the textures if needed. So for now, we will not focus too much on that because we will have an entire video dedicated about the textures into the shaders. But here, what we will do, we'll focus on this interface here. That looks a little strange for people that doesn't know how works nodes. Nodes, basically, it's a system that lets you create some kind of trees, tree system that makes the information from left to the right, okay? So let's say you have here, I will go into this tab here. I will just have my shader that is called Suzanne that I can here rename Suzanne. If you don't have any shader, you create a new one, okay? And this one I will call it monkey for the example, okay? So it's another one, and it will be into the list of the materials that I have into my blend file here. And I can tell, for example, I can take the anthracite, for example, or whatever here shader that I have already into my blend file. Okay, so it will be a new one in the list here. And it creates by default a principal BSDF and a material output. There are nodes with plugs that you can put some things, some other nodes information into it, okay? You can see that there are some colors, and this basically is a shader node. So the green one is a shader node, and the outside of it will go with a green dot and goes to the surface or the volume. All the BSDF nodes, the BSDF shaders, will create some information in the surface. If you have volume nodes, by Shift A, you can see that I can add new node. I can select a shader and you have some volume, for example, a principal volume here. The others are BSDF, okay? So principal volume will let you plug something into the volume. And now if I remove that one, you can see that we have a kind of strange, like a cloud. If I increase the density of it, like for example, I will put 10, I can start to see that it's the volume, it's not the surface, okay? So basically, we have some shaders like this. You plug and you have the information that goes into the surface. You have the possibility, as I showed you, to add some other nodes. So let's say I will add a new color and maybe I will mix color, okay? You can see that here I have two informations of color and I will plug the result into the base color of the principal here. So for example, let's mix, for example, a green with a blue, a pure blue here. And what we have is something in between, okay? And you can see that now we can just create some more interesting stuff. We can add some textures, we can add some information for the roughness, the metallic, the alpha. We will discover all of that into the next videos, but because I will make an entire video just for this node. This node is the most important that you will find for make your shaders in Blender. So you have this interface as well that reproduce a little what's happening here into the nodes interface into let's say a tab system here. But it's so much more it's so much more efficient to use this system than this one. You will never look at it except that you want just to tweak the first node, but you will not have the information of the second and third, and sometimes you have a lot of nodes here that plugs to only one here to have a beautiful shader. So here you can just click and drag to move it, or you can select a node by just clicking it, and I will enable the screencast keys like this. You will see what I do here. Okay, so if I just use G, I will move the node. Okay, I can select two nodes with shift. Okay, I can make a scale if I want to make something like this. It's not really what we use like this. If you have two nodes that you want to plug like this with, let's say, let's come back with a mix color. You select both here and you make F, and it will just make the link between the two. When you click and drag like this, you remove the link. Or when you make a control right click, you cut the link. Or when you make a shift right click here, you make a new here reroute. You see that now you have this one that you can move somewhere else just to organize well all the little noodles that you will have here. Okay, so here this is basically the system of it. And to manage that, I really recommend you, and it's really something that you will have to use if you want to be efficient with the node system here. I really recommend you to enable here into the preferences to go and search for the add-on. Maybe I did install it already. Where is it? It's the Node Wrangler. Okay. If you don't have it installed, you go into the extensions, you search for Node Wrangler, and you enable that. I will just enable this one, and it has a few functions that are really important to understand. So let's say I will add a texture. Okay. And this texture will be just a noise texture that comes from Blender. And if I plug this to this, I will see that I will have a kind of texture that will appear here. Let's say that the factor, so it's an information in black and white. I can plug it to the color because black and white to color, it works. And I can plug color to black and white as well. Sometimes it can work, but I cannot plug factor here to the normal information. It will not work well, or to the surface information. It will not work well. So only color and black and white value. The color is the yellow one, the black and white value, it's the gray one, will work, and you can sometimes mix them to have something in the end, but you cannot make things to the normals and to the surface. I will come back to normal and surface after. But here we have basically an information in black and white, as you can see. And now I will have maybe another node, and maybe I will come back with a mix color. Okay, so the mix color, I will put a factor into it, and now I can have a color red here, let's say, and a color green here to have really something. And you can see that we see here the result. We have a mix between the two. And let's add a new node to make you understand a little more. And maybe I would like to contrast this. To contrast, we use another node with Shift A, and this is a converter color ramp that I will add here. And if I want to contrast, I just click and drag these two little here things. And now you can see that you have more interesting color. And sometimes you need to know what goes out from a specific node here. And here you have only the result by default. And if you don't enable the Node Wrangler add-on, you cannot do what I will do now. It's the Control-Shift-Click. Control-Shift-Click will let you here just see directly from a node the result here in the material output. Control-Shift-Click on this one, you see the result, but now it's contrasted. Control-Shift-Click, on that one, and here you will see the result after the mixing the two colors, and here you will see the result in the end. Okay, so this one, just for this shortcut, is very important. The Node Wrangler will let you manage the nodes more precisely, and we will see that we will have other shortcuts during discovering how to make some shaders and interesting shaders. That will be very important with the Node Wrangler add-on. You can find some more interesting stuff with the Node Wrangler here. You can see that you will have some other here buttons that you can use, and other other stuff that you can use, but we will discover it with shortcuts after. And that's it for now. So you can see that already, just to change some different and to add some different colors here, you have a few nodes that will make the job until the principal BSDF and until the material output. So this is basically how works the node system, and you will see that it's very powerful for people that are really not used on this. You will see it's not that complicated to understand. Sometimes you see a lot of nodes that will appear and that comes to this, and it makes a big tree, like something big like this. Okay, maybe I can see maybe that one. You see already that there are already a few nodes that appear to come and have this nice textured shader material on this chair. Okay, the same for that one. You have a different one here. So you will see that it seems a little intimidated, but actually it's so easy to understand that you will see that it works pretty well. Just be used a little to it, and we will see and take a few examples to make you more familiar with this system. So first of all, let's go into the principal BSDF shader, and I will show you that it's the main shader that you will use always. It will be in the next video. In this video, we will discover this first node that we did see when you add a material here is the principal BSDF. So what I will do, I will just unplug this little system that I made here, okay? And we will go through this node that is very important. So for all surfaces material, I would say that you can do almost everything with this one. And you will have to plug maybe some informations into it, but basically your main here node for all the nodes that we'll have with surface and not with volume, but with surface, it will be this one. You see that in the list here, you have a few other BSDF nodes, okay? Basically, these nodes, they did all been mixed together to make this one, the principal BSDF that has all the informations into it. You can see that here into the shader, I could add, for example, here a glossy. And a glossy is basically something that is metallic. So if I plug it here, you can see that Suzanne will become metallic here. But here into this node, you have a metallic slider, so you can make it metallic if needed, and you have exactly the same result. So basically it was before a system when you that you mixed you were mixing these materials, there's little shaders here with mix shader and have the same result than the principled shader, but they did the principled here. That works very well, and that is very more effective. So let's go through the settings here, the first settings that are already very important. The first one is the base color. If you click on it, you have the color wheel here that you can find some interesting colors. You can change here by sliders. You have the hue saturation value, or you can come into the RGB if needed. The hue saturation here, so the hue, if you have a value into the saturation, like for example the blue, it will turn around the wheel, something like that, okay? If you use the saturation, it will go in the center, okay? If you go with the value, it will go down with the black and white value here, so goes with something with more dark or less dark here, okay? And you have the alpha. The alpha is not used here because we don't have any transparency for now. Okay, so now we have a basic, let's say, plastic blue material. You can change this with the metallic. So the metallic will have some metallic reflections into it. So you can see that if I increase this and maybe put this back into a white color, you can see that now I have some metallic reflections. I can manage these reflections with the metallic or not, because here we have some reflections as well. We can see that we have some reflex into Suzanne. You can manage the reflections if they are metallic or not with the roughness here. The roughness will give you the possibility to have something really shiny and polished here. If I decrease that, so I will have something with with a coat on it, okay? And here I will increase that to have something with more roughness, and so a matte material here. Okay, so here and there. I can remove the reflections with the IOR value. For example, if I put the IOR at 1, I will have almost no reflections into Suzanne here, okay? So IOR is something that I will cover more and that you will more understand with the transmission value after. I will come back into it. So here we have the metallic roughness, IOR, and alpha. Alpha will create some transparency on it. Already with the 4-1st, I will not talk about the alpha now, but with the 4-1st here, you will have the possibility to make a lot of shaders, of basic shaders. All the metallic ones will be possible, like you increase the metallic. Here you have some red metallic material. It could be red paint metallic material, for example. Here, if I decrease the roughness, I will have something that will look really more metallic. And if I change just the color here, I will have already a gold. Very simple. Or just a silver, just coming here. Okay? Or maybe copper, something more like here. Okay? More reddish. And if you want to go with something that is more with paint, metallic materials, you can go there as well. It will work pretty well. So you can see that you have already a lot of possibilities just with the metallic and the color, but without the metallic as well, you have basically all the painted and plastic material that you will find here. Let's take a black piano, for example, here. If I decrease the roughness, okay, I have something that looks a piano. Black piano material, so a coated, very shiny material like that. You can change all the colors, it will work as well, okay? So for creating all kind of painted with a coat on it. And here you have the possibility to change the roughness to go with something more like this, okay? So with some reflections, but a little blurry, and increase the roughness until having something really matte like that. Okay, so you have already a lot of possibilities. Look around you if you don't have any specific colors under the shaders under what you see. It's not a shadow in the reality, but for example, I just watch my mouse here. It's gray and very with a lot of roughness into it, so it will be a material that looks a little like this. Okay, something around there, I would say, maybe with less eye aware, something like that, maybe. Okay, so yeah, you will have already a lot of possibilities just with the 4 first options. Now I would like to go to continue here, and here we have the diffuse and the roughness, so we'll not change that much this. We will go into the subsurface. So the subsurface, I will take just a white color, simple white color, to show you how it works. So no saturation, big value here, and you have something that works like that. If I increase the weight of that, you can see that here in the ears you have some kind of transparency. So this appears in all wax materials to make some candles, for example, or sometimes in characters, you know, behind the ears, exactly like Suzanne actually. And if you put a light behind, you will see more what I talk about. Maybe what I can do is to show you with this. Okay, I come back here. Maybe I did disable the lights here somewhere. It should be here. Yeah, if I enable extras, I will come back with the lights. And here, so if I just put it really behind Suzanne, maybe scale it down, okay, and put it behind Suzanne like this, in front view, just behind it, okay, so something like that. You will see that the result will change here, and you will really see more what's happening with this shader here, okay, so you can see more the result into the ears. So for example, here for a material with a skin material, something like that, it can be interesting to add some of this option here, the subsurface. So you have different options, you can play with them to see how it will make appear the subsurface here. So this one works well for the skin, for example, maybe. You have some radius options here with axis that will make you appear different colors into the shader. Like you can see here, it will be more or less. So yeah, it can be interesting as well. You have the scale, the eye aware, and anisotropy. So all of this, you don't change it that much usually. But yeah, at least the subsurface scattering can be something that you enable or not with the weight of it here just, okay? So you can see the result here. I will put back the lamp behind, like that, scale it up. And now I come back with the other settings that we have here. So we did see the subsurface, we didn't see that well the specular. We can increase or decrease the level, the eye aware level. You can see that here you have the eye aware by default that will let you manage here, let's say, a way of use the roughness here. So if I decrease the roughness and manage the eye aware, you will see that it will change the reflections. If you put it at 1, it will be almost nothing. But if you decrease the eye aware level, you will see that it will remove everything here. So it's kind of same settings, but yeah, just in another slider. And here you have the anisotropic. So the anisotropic can be interesting for creating brushed materials, like for example, brushed metallic. So let's go into a metallic shader with maybe not that much saturation and increase a little the roughness to can see really the result. So here, if I increase the anisotropic, and you can see that it did already change. And if I change the anisotropic rotation, you can see that I will have this kind of reflections that appears only in brushed materials. Usually it works very well with this kind of objects here. Like for example, you want to create cooking stuff or things like that. I come back with monkey here, okay? So here, and you can see the result with the rotation. So yeah, it works very well on that. So you can really have nice stuff with this, okay? So you can change all of that. You see here the results, and with the rotation you will have this kind of effect. Works very well for this kind of object. Okay, I go here, I come back with the red here, and now I have the next one is the transmission. So the transmission will not work when you have metallic into it. If I increase that, you can see that it will not appear. But if I decrease metallic and increase the weight of transmission here, I will have something totally glossy here. So we have a gloss now. I will just remove these extras like this. We see more what's happening here. So what we have now, we have basically transparent Suzanne, and we can change still the color, for example, to make all the glasses that you want, or maybe some gems or things like that will work as well. You can change here the metallic, you can change, sorry, the roughness to have something more like this, or more with a polished here material, unpolished material like this, okay? And here you have the possibility to change the weight, so transparent a little or not. Here the IOR is important in that area, because the IOR will change the way of the lights go through the material, and it depends the material itself. So for example, if you want to create some water, I would just go into here a basic material list here. Okay, so if you search for IOR list, index of refraction list, you will find some here, some stuff here. I'm into the website that works well here, and you will find all the IOR values for metal, but for transparent shaders here, if needed as well. This one is in Japanese, but you see here all the results for here. For alcohol you have 1.32, for example. If you go and search for water, for example, I guess it will come in the list. Okay, water depends the temperature. Here you will have 1.3. And for the glass material, so let's go into G to search some glass. Here the glass should be around 1.45, I guess. 1.48 here. So you see that you have basically some interesting stuff that goes really into the reality. So you can search for real material. Depends if you want something like diamond here. Diamond, it's very high, 2.4. It's the highest one. So if you want to create a diamond here, you just make it like this with no saturation at all, and you will increase here the IOR to 2.4 something, and you will have something that looks more like a diamond. And you can make exactly the same kind of system with all the crystals and all the metallic stuff. So it's important to play with the IOR values if you want to be if you want to have something that looks realistic and that the eye knows it. So when you want, just remember at least the two more important is the glass and the water. So the glass, it's 1.48 or 1.5, and the water, it's near 1.33 here. Okay, so we have the possibility to do all the transparent materials as well. Okay, we have the coat here. The coat, basically, it's a coat that you can add into the surface. So let's come back with something not transparent. Remove the transmission weight, and maybe we'll put a dark material like this with some roughness into it, okay? Without any here, and I will just remove the specular anisotropic. I just want something classic with an IOR classic as well, 1.5 here. It will be enough. Good. So we have a basic material like that, and we would like to keep this reflection like this, but add a coat on it. And that's why we have here this slider. If you increase that, you will have a coat on the surface. So you will have two reflections in that case. So in that case here, it will be a coat that is very shiny like that. You can change the roughness of the second coat as well. So it works very well with metallic materials as well to make some painted metallic paint. So for example, for a car shader or something like that, let's go to red value, red here, a dark red, let's say, and we will go to something metallic. I will decrease the coat here just to see without the coat how it looks. Okay, so the metallic will look somewhere like this. Okay, you will have already something good, but you want to add a coat into it, and this one will really make you something that looks very good for a car shader, for example. So already very interesting to work with this stuff as well. You have roughness and IOR, exactly the same values that you have here, but only works for the coat. And you have a tint of the coat if you want it. Like for example, this coat, I increase it. If I add a tint into it, you can see that the reflection of the coat will be affected by a color. You have the sheen material, so as it says here, works well with non-metallic material for sure. Increase the roughness, increase the weight of it. Okay, and usually without IOL. And I will play with the tint as well. So it's another way here to add some nice reflections into it. But you can use it in another way. It's good in that case to not use the coat because it will change a little the things. And so now you can see more what's happening. You add a new color into the side of the object, into the reflections here. So you can increase and decrease that so to have more. It works well, for example, to add here on very dark materials. You can have this kind of effect here. You can see that, okay? So in that case, you can increase or decrease the roughness, and it will appear only on the side of the material. So can be a very good way to make some more complex shaders. Like for example here, if I have a tint that is different, like for example here I have a blue and I would like something like that. So it's not very realistic, but can make very interesting stuff and works well with metallic as well, as you can see here. So now you have a really interesting shader with a coat. Okay, you can see that you have multiple colors appears into this nice car shader, for example, with the sheen and the tint that you can play with like that. Okay, so I decrease the weight of the coat and the sheen like this. It will not appear in the render, and I will go to the emission section here. So let's keep the base color, and anyway it will not change anything on that, and I will remove hide all the lights. So I can go here and show you how it works, and like this we can hide all the lights, and like this we don't have any light into the scene. We can make the shader create some light, so this object will create some light in the scene. So let's increase that at 2, and you can see that now we have a light that goes from Suzanne. So very interesting one. So now if I move Suzanne, you can see that it works very well. It works very well and very in a realistic way for the render engine cycles. But if you go into Eevee, you can see that here it will not appear into the shader, into the reflections here. You will not have the light that really lights all the objects by default. Maybe by adding the ray tracing, it will add a little more realism. But honestly, with cycles, you will have really nice result with that. Okay, so you can increase the strength. If you put it at 20, it will really light the scene. You can change the color of the light if needed. Okay, so can make really interesting stuff as well with the strength and the color here of the emission. I come back with something at 0, and you have a thin film here. It's a little same way of the coat. Usually we don't use it that much, that one, so I will not cover it. For this, you will have already a lot of possibilities to create some shaders just with this here principal shader. As you can see, you can make really interesting stuff like that. So we will go deeper into it. We will add some textures, and what you have to understand with all the gray here dots, like for example for the roughness, you can see that here if I come back with no saturated here, something like that, so I increase or decrease the roughness, it will create this kind of behavior like this. Okay, but if I add the information that comes here in black and white from the color ramp, remember we had this noise texture, and after with Ctrl+Shift+Click the informations of the color ramp that are in black and white. So if I plug those informations that are black and white into this value of the color of the roughness here, you can see the result now, and the result shows that what is white will be high at 1, and what is black will be at 0. So here we have the possibility to play already with only the roughness, or maybe we would like to play with the metallic. So here only some parts will be metallic and the other parts are not metallic. Okay, so it can be very interesting to plug some informations into these values to add more realism to your needs. But what we will see first is how to use multiple shaders into one object, and it will be a very quick video, but very important to understand how to manage your shaders. In this video, we'll see how to add multiple shaders into an object and how to mix them. So first of all, let's have a look on the first shader here. Basically, we'll just create a very simple skin shader, like something like this, with this color without any material. Increase a little the roughness, increase a little the IOR somewhere here, and let's go with something like that. Very simple skin shader material, just something like this. Okay, not that much roughness, maybe 1.2, yeah, something like that. Very simple, nothing crazy. But I would like, and I will call this material shader, and material is exactly the same. So I will try to talk about shaders here. So this one will be monkey skin. And now I would like to add some 2 new shaders into this object. These shaders will be the eye white and the eye black, let's say. So let's go through this, or maybe we'll have an eye blue as well. So let's go for that. you see that you have the slots here that can manage multiple materials into one object. So I can make a plus and I will have a new slot. Now I can create a new shader, and this shader will be eyes white. Nice one. So we are happy with it, but we cannot see that into our object. So how to see this into our object? We have to assign this into a part, and this it's made only into the edit mode. So let's go into that. Maybe we'll put this into a pure white, decrease the roughness to have something a little shiny like this. And now what I would like is to go in edit mode. And you can see that if I'm not in edit mode here, I will not have the here buttons that are here, the assign and select and deselect. So now I can select the shader that I want and assign it to a selection that I make. So I know that there's eyes with L are something that we can select directly. So I just use this, and now I go into the eyes white and I select assign. And now I will have my new material into the eyes. Very simple, right? So we'll make the same for maybe, yeah, maybe we can make a blue, but with a little modeling. So let's go for that. We can just add a new one, and this one will be blue like this. And it will be eyes blue. A little shiny like this, maybe, yeah, somewhere more here. Okay, and we would like to have the possibility to have more selection possible here. So I will select these two dots, make Control plus to select plus, and with Y I will create a border like this. It will make the possibility to add this here outside, and I can select the inset face with the select outer. So this selection here will be in blue and the middle will be in black. So here I have the basic done, and now I can select the eyes blue and assign it, and now I will have this stuff. Maybe I can decrease a little the IOR to decrease some reflections and increase a little the roughness. Okay, so now we have this. Now I can select the center with Control plus again and create the last one. So it will be a new one again, and I will just create a new one. It will be totally black with a roughness very low, and we will call it eyes black. And now you will have multiple materials just like this. I will assign like this, and now you can see that I have the shaders that are completely separated and well organized. What is good as well is that you can use that in modeling. For example, let's say you would like just to select directly into edit mode. For example, you are in a way you want to select everything that is white. You can come into your white eyes here and select, and you will have this nice selection directly. And you can see that it selects very well what we need. So yeah, very important possibilities here. And you can deselect in case as well. For example, if you select everything and you want to deselect everything that is in the slot one, you deselect that and you have a new selection that can be interesting in some cases. So yeah, this stuff is very important. Another way of mixing, it's not really mixing shaders if you call this slot a shader, but it's mixing shaders anyway, because for example, if you create two principled here into the monkey skin, let's come back into the monkey skin to work a little with that. And you remember we had this texture here. If I make Control Shift click into it with the node wrangler, I have here a black and white value. So for example, let's create a new principal BSDF by duplicate it, and you will have this kind of stuff like that. Okay, so now if I plug the surface of that one here, I can see that I have the skin shader. Maybe I will just, for the demonstration, make something a little crazy. Let's say I would like to have a painted material, okay, with a roughness here, decrease a little this roughness, okay, and maybe this one will be a little metallic, okay, and maybe we'll add some coat into it to make it more realistic, and maybe we can add some nice sheen into that as well with a blue value and increase the weight of it, okay, to have this kind of nice shader. Okay, look, we have something already interesting. But what you can do is you can create something totally different, like for example, let's say something like with a rust color. Okay, so with this kind of color here, if I control click on it, I can see the result. So I want something with a kind of rusty color like that. Okay, we could add some textures into it and everything, but just for now, just to show you the mixing of these two materials, if I make Control Shift click and Control Shift click like that, I can tell with a node that we didn't see yet into the shader here section, we have a mix shader. And what this mix shader does, it mixes the two shaders. So we can just plug the shader here, plug the shader here, and what we have now, it's when I make Control Shift click on that one, I can just click and drag this one to that one. So very important to have a factor and maybe add some, but what is most important is that you can plug something into this factor. And let's say we take this information here and put it there. So now you have the shader that will be two shaders basically. We have the paint shader and the rust shader, and it's mixed by this color ramp. So it's another way of mixing shaders here, as you can see. So very important to understand that is that all the black and white values will be interesting for mixing stuff in this. So now basically what you have, it's a noise texture that is contrasted with this color ramp value that will mix this shader to this shader and will make something like that. Okay, so can be very interesting to mix shaders as well. So it's not really it's not really have multiple shader slots here. In that case, it's just in one shader you can mix stuff with black and white values like that. So very important to understand the system of it too. So that's it for this mixing multiple materials into one object. And it's very two different ways. So in that case, you can not have anything blurry, and you will have the selection in edit mode that will have the same of what you want. For example, let's say here, you see in edit mode, you have this topology. Let's say you will have, you will need something that will make a cut like that between two materials. You cannot do it with the edit mode, it's not possible, or you will have to change the topology. But if you use some textures that will be painted like this, and we will see how to paint textures as well, you can really have interesting stuff like this. So that's why this is a very powerful technique that I had to show you. Now into the next video, we will see how to use texture sets. We see that here we have some really interesting stuff that goes on to have some really more complex material that looks complex, but actually it's not that complex. And I will show you how to make that into the next video. In this video, I will show you how to work with texture sets. So what is texture set for 3D stuff? You can just go into Polyheaven website. We did go for HDRI already, but you see that there is a textures here section. And into these textures sections, you can find some really nice textures that are well organized and really made for make 3D stuff. So here, for example, let's go into this red brick material here. You can see that this is the result here in 3D, okay? You can load here something that will show you in 3D after a while of computing, and you will see the result directly like that. You can see it into the website, and you see here the set. So here you have several textures that will influence the basic BSDF shader that we have. And so we have here the ambient occlusion, so it's a kind of black and white values that will show only the parts that are close to each other. Here you have the basic color that will be used to plug into the color. Here we have the normals, and we will talk about the normals, but basically it simulates kind of little details sculpted into the surface. Here we have another way to manage normals, but it's a normal map as well. Here we have the height that can even manage here how where the vertices are. And here we have the roughness. And basically that's what you need to make a shader looks very realistic. So here, if you come to another example, for example, here we have some rusty metal with metallic stuff into it. So in that case, you might have another texture that manages the metalness as well. Here, as you can see, the white will be metallic, the dark will not be metallic. So, and we have the other textures as well that you can add to your shader to make it look very realistic. So that's what I will show you and how it works. Basically, I did download some of them already into the source files. You can see that here into the source files using texture sets, I did download some textures for you. So we have dark wood that looks like this. We have, for example, a metal rust with some a little metalness here. We have some rocky terrain. We have some rust metal here. It's this one. We have the tiles to show you, and maybe some wood floor as well. So just to show you how works this textures. And if you want to download them, you can just download here a 2K zip file, or choose the size here, and it can be a blend file as well, and it will give you the shader directly done. Me, I really want to show you how to make this material, so I will not download the blend. I will show you how to make it yourself, and you will see it's very easy, because here this website gives you already a lot of stuff, but maybe you will download on other websites and they will not give you the blend file. So in that case, I show you how it works without the blend file. Go. So now we will go into our Suzanne monkey skin here, and what I will do, I will just not call it monkey skin because it will be now something totally different. I will remove all the nodes that we did create before, and I will add a shader principled here, okay? And this shader, I will plug it here, just like the default shader that we have in Blender when you add a new shader. And now I would like to add some textures. So let's go into the right folder. So for that, I will just copy and paste here the folder. Yeah, we have the textures here. So I will make Ctrl+C just like that. And I will go there and make Ctrl+V. And like this, I'm into my the right shader, the right folder here. And what we can do actually, we can just navigate into, let's say, let's take this rust metal like this. Let's take this one. It's an interesting one. what I can do, I can just click and drag like that, and you see that I have a new node, and it appears here. I can plug the color into that, just like this. And look, we have already the color that appears into Suzanne. This will work well because Suzanne is unwrapped. Unwrapped, we will have a full chapter about unwrap and UV mapping. So it means that Suzanne here is unwrapped into a 2D flat texture like this, and we will see how to go from 3D to 2D like this. And like this, you see the result, and it's mapped into Suzanne with these informations. When you add a Suzanne in Blender by default here, you can see that into the options you have generate UVs, and that's what it does basically. But you can make it manually. We will see that into the UV section. But for now, let's come back into our shading here, and we can see that now if we plug this to this, we have already the informations, okay? And basically what we have to do, if we want to see here the names, it will be easier. So for example, if I want to use the roughness, I select the texture that is rough, and I just click and drag here. I don't want a color space sRGB, I want it just black and white. So what I will do, I will choose non-color in that case because I just want black and white values. And I just click and drag the roughness. So you don't see that much difference here. But if I unplug the base color, you see, and put dark material here, you see that already the roughness is very influenced by that. Okay? So I put back the color here. And then I would like to use here the metallic here that is there. So I will just make some space for it, add the metallic, that one, okay, click and drag, just put it there. Use not sRGB, but use non-color, and you will just click and drag the metallic like this. So again, if you just watch the color, it didn't change that much, but if you don't watch the color, here you can see that it did change a little more. So you have some metallic stuff now. And we can add now one that is very important. And for this, I will just remove everything. Like this, you have a pure black material, just like that, black shader. And I will use the GL. So the normal GL, this is the one that I want to use. And I just want to click and drag it again. Put it somewhere here. I don't want sRGB as the others. I want a non-color data. It will just go into something like that in the end of it. And we want to plug it into the normals, but you can see that we have some colors here and some normals here. So it will not be possible to plug the yellow to the normal here. And we have a specific node to make the transfer. The name is normal map. You can search the node here by just clicking normal, and you will have the normal map node. The normal map node will have a yellow information, color informations here, and go into a normal informations. Okay, so I will just click and drag this here, click and drag this here, and now in the end of that one, you can see the results. It's like we have some grainy parts into the surface. So it's like a sculpted material now, okay? We can change the strength into it. So let's put 0, we have no effect. 0.2, we have little effect. And 1, we have big effect. 2 might be too much in some cases. In that case, it works. So sometimes it doesn't work that well with values over 1. And I plug everything back. And look, it starts to look really realistic now. Okay, we have something that looks very nice already. So without the normal at 0, you see we don't have these little grains here. So now we have more realism in that part. And what we can do to add a last touch of realism is use the AO here. And the AO, it's the little parts that are close to each other. Like for example, here you have the paint that is damaged and with the rust and everything. So this part will show some darkness here. And you add it to the color. You don't plug it directly to the principled here because you don't have any AO into the principled. And I would like to have it actually, so I call for Blender Heads. But anyway, what we would like to add is we would like to add it into the color here. Okay, so we'll not use a principled mix shader, we will use a mix color. So let's go into the color section, mix color. We would like to plug the first one here and the second one here. So what it makes basically in the end of it, if we mix it like this, we have the AO. If we mix it like that, we have the normal color. But we don't want to use a mix factor here. We want just to add the dark parts of this texture, and for that we will just use the multiply. Now you can see without and with it, it's just slightly different. But here, for example, into the ear, we will see more the result here with and without. You see this darkness here, these little shades that appear here. It will be very important to make the thing more natural and more realistic. And now you have the end of the shader that is done. And now you have the shader that is done. If you put this one into it, good. Now we have everything done. We could even plug the displacement here that is there. And again, this is black and white value. For this, it will be a little specific, but I will show you how it works. We don't work with sRGB again. We work with non-color data, and we want to plug in into the displacement this. So for that, I will just add a displacement, as it says, and I will just plug the color into the height. Okay. And now I can just plug the displacement into the displacement. By default, it just adds some darkness and increase a little the effect of the normal map. It doesn't change that much. For make a real displacement, you have to use here something a little different. So it will go into the settings of the displacement here, and you see that you have by default into the settings here, you have bump only into the displacement. Me, I would like displacement and bump, and it will change really the vertices of the object. So what we want is something not that big for this, and we want more vertices into our surface. So we would like maybe let's add 4 subdivisions to have more of this, and this, the mid-level or the scale has to be changed, like 0.1, something like that. And you see that now it really moved the real vertices. So for this kind of surface that is actually flat, it's not that interesting. But for other materials, like the other textures that I have here, the rocky terrain, I will show you that with the rocky terrain, it will work pretty well. Let's say our texture is too big now. So what you can do, you can just plug all the vector here values to shortcut with Control T. Like that, you will have some texture coordinates. You just select one here, and now you will have some texture coordinates, and you can change the scale of it. So if I just watch this one in the end of that one, or maybe I will plug this one here, the end of that one here, if I scale it at 5, I will have something repeated and bigger. So sometimes you will want to change the scale of your texture, and it will be here. So you have basically to plug everything into that one. This is very important, or it will not work well. So you plug this to that, and again to that one. Good, so now if I come back here, I will change directly all the textures. So if I put it at 2, I will have this kind of behavior. Works well, okay, we are happy with that. So now we have our Rusty shader. And all of this, it's a lot of clicks. It's a lot of things to manage, and it's a lot of manipulations. You can see it's not just one click. And what is good with Node Wrangler is that you can make it with one click. All of this. It was very important for me to show you how it works, but basically you can make it with this principal setup. And this principal setup is Shift-Control-T by selecting all of this. So let's remove that. Let's remove work only if you select the principal shader, what I show you here. So let's say I would like to make this rocky terrain here. So I will just make Ctrl-Shift-T, and I will go into the textures and the rocky terrain texture, and I will select the textures that I want to add into my shader. I would like to add the roughness for sure. I would like to add the normal GL. I would like to add the displacement, the diffuse, that is the color, and the ambient occlusion. Sometimes the ambient occlusion I think doesn't work, it depends. And I will just click on Principal Texture Setup. And look at that. It did work perfectly directly here. The only thing that we have to change is the mid-level and the scale. Maybe we'll put it at 0.1 and look at this shader directly. Everything is set it up with the same settings that I did show you, but directly in one click. So it's a very easy way, and that's why Node Wrangler is very important. Just for this, the principal texture setup, here it's very important. So now you have your texture. You can change the value here. It will change, it will just create some new here mapping into it by multiply the textures. And so it's very easy to make. As you can see, the only thing that didn't work here is the ambient occlusion. Either I did tell you it didn't plug to the principal directly. You have to just manually just add here the mix color and add color here into that, just like we did with the multiply, and this multiply at 1 and put it at the base color there. You can see that it add a little shades into the details. So yeah, and you see that it looks very realistic, especially with the displacement. So let's make another here. I will make Ctrl Z a few times just to come back with the principal without anything. I select the principal here and Ctrl-Shift-T. Ctrl-Shift-T, let's go for maybe a wood floor. Okay, so I will select the diffuse, the roughness, the ambient occlusion for that one, the normal GL, and the displacement maybe is not useful. Anyway, it's something that is flat, so I will just make principal texture setup. And let's go, and we have directly a floor material. I just have again to add the ambient occlusion that can really help to make something more realistic. So let's go for it. Mix color. We just plug that one here, choose the multiply and click and drag this here, and you have your shader that is done. So before it was like this, after it's more like that. So with more crisp details. You can, by remove the clump factor, increase the influence of the ambient occlusion to have something more like this, for example. So it can be interesting in some cases. And you can change the color itself. So for example, let's say you have a basic material here that you like, but it's not the color that you want. It can happen sometimes. So let's increase this at 5, like this we see more the details like this. Okay, perfect. So you can still change the IOWare in case or something like this, but let's say you would like something with less roughness. You would like something more shiny with kind of coat into it. So you can increase the coat value, for example, but you can change the roughness informations that are going into that as well. So for that, you can just add a color. I like to add RGB curves to change these things, for example. Here you have basically this, and at the end of this, you have the same now. But if I decrease that, I will have something darker. Okay? And now the roughness will not have the same influence. You see that now I will have something with less roughness, but always with this nice informations that gives us the realism of this. And I can increase that by make something totally raw like that as well. So can be very good just to change the colors to manage with this. You can play as well with other mix with other colors nodes here, like for example the hue saturation value. What I like is to add a hue saturation value and an RGB curve. So the RGB curve as well for the colors will work pretty well just to change the intensity if you want something darker or if you want something lighter. Okay, so it works well. But with the, and you could play only with the R values, for example, just to make different settings here. Okay, I would like something with less reflections here, just something like this. Oops, sorry, I made a crazy curve. Just something like this, and maybe with an IOWare little less strong. Something like that will work better for me. So now we'll have this this nice color that is coming here. So you can play with the red value, the green value, the blue value as well. But what I like is to change sometimes the colors, remove the saturation. For example, we would like something almost gray. We put the saturation at 0.2 and look, we have sometimes this kind of shaders for the floors. So it can be interesting. And after you can put it more light or less, decrease again the saturation, okay? Or if you put back the saturation at 0.6, for example, you can change the hue as well to go with something greenish, bluish, or whatever. So can be very interesting to work with these values to have something that suits your needs. Okay, you can play with the value as well to make it less, more darker and darker, for example. So yeah, these two nodes already creates a lot of possibilities. And so maybe we can just play with another one, just to click and drag everything and remove everything. So that's what is good, is that it's quick. Control-Shift-T, and you just select another one here. Let's go with the tiles, maybe. Okay, and so we will select the roughness here, the ambient occlusion again, the colors, the displacement maybe not, it's flat, more or less flat matter, flat shader, and the normal GL that is here. And let's add the principled here, and we have directly this. Again, we can change with, we can play with the scale to have something more realistic. And now look, it's already here. We just have to change the ambient occlusion as we did before a few times to make it work really well. So you can see that it's a very powerful method to have something really realistic quick. And that's what I wanted to show you that. Now what you can do as well, I will come back maybe with this one. Okay, like this you will have this example that I made. Maybe I will come back with something less crazy, like something like this, and 0.2 was good. I did like here the value over there, maybe a little lighter, maybe 0.1 is good as well. Okay, and I will remove this one. Good. So now you have this kind of shader. Increase a little that one, and look, you have something that is very beautiful to play with. Okay, so yeah, you have the other possibility as well. It's to download the blend files here directly, and to download and to append the shader directly from file append. Okay, let's take another here blend file like this. You see how it works. You enter into the blend file and you see the shaders that you want to append. Okay, so after you just, let's take for example this metal dark. We have it already in our scene, but it's just to show you how it works. So let's take this metal dark, I append it, and now it will be in my list. Okay, this one was already there, so it did create a duplication, but it will work in any case. So yeah, it can be an interesting way to manage your shaders. Don't create the folders with all your textures or all your shaders now, because we'll have a dedicated chapter about the asset browser, and you will see that it's so easy to create this kind of assets and folders like this with the asset browser, that it will be not a good way to manage it now. So wait until the chapter 11 to manage this. In the next video, we will see how to use the procedural shaders, the procedural materials. You see that here we use some textures that are with pixels here, but we can use some textures with here, like for example the noise textures that we did see, and this one are from Blender and are procedurals. So it will be the next video, and I will see you how to make interesting stuff with that. In this video, I will show you how to use procedural textures to create some nice materials in Blender without any pixels, any image textures like that. So what is important to understand is the benefits of using procedural materials like this is that you don't have to unwrap the geometry like I did show you here into the UV editing. You don't have to do that, and sometimes unwrapping can be a little complicated if you don't know that stuff. Anyway, we will cover it into the next chapter, and you will see that it's not that complicated, but some people, they don't like to unwrap and they prefer to use procedural shaders like this. Like this, you don't have to unwrap anything. So what we will use here is a first texture. Maybe we can make a paint that is a little damaged with rust, first of all. Okay, so for that we will create basically two shaders. There will be the paint here, there will be the paint, and here there will be the rust, and we will mix them together. So we will try to make something a little more realistic than what we made before. And first of all, I will focus on the paint here. So I will go there, and for the paint, let's say I will take a kind of red material, or maybe a yellow shader like this. Can be good. I will decrease the roughness a little of it. I don't want something too shiny because, but I want something that is already a little bit realistic without anything. So I can add a little of coat into that, but it has to be not that much shiny, so I will increase the roughness like that, okay? And not too much. Yeah, something like this might be good. Maybe a little more roughness into both. And anyway, the roughness here, I will manage it with a first texture that we will add. So this will be here a texture and we will change with the noise texture here. Okay, so we have a noise texture, and this will influence the roughness there. So if I plug the factor here to the roughness, I will have here something that doesn't appear that much, but it did change things already. It's because of the yellow here. But if we go into something really dark, we can see that we have the roughness that did change a little if I decrease that as well. So what we will do to manage this, you can see a little the details of it. So what I can do to manage the details of it, I will just change already a few things into that noise texture. First of all, I can increase the details, and if you watch here the details of it, and I increase that to 15, you can see that I have more depth into the texture itself, okay, more details into it. I can increase or decrease the scale like this, okay. If I increase the scale, you can see that I will have something more like that. Be careful after it's a little too much repetitive and it shows a little itself more. So maybe somewhere around 13 might be good. And you can use some color ramps. The color ramp are very important when you make some procedural stuff. So let's plug this into here and go into there, and now we'll have another it's the same by default. We create exactly the same, but you can just contrast or uncontrast what you need. So let's go into the principle here, and you can see we have already these nice reflections that looks a little better than before, okay? And then if you want to add more reflections like that, okay, like it's a little damaged, and you can change even the color itself if you want to have something that looks like this in the end and not totally black here, okay? So like this, we have this kind of reflections that are already more interesting for what we wanted to. So we'll come back with this yellow painted shader here. We could come back to the coat just a little, and now we have already a paint that looks a little better than before. Good. So maybe we can play a little with the sheen here, and we will put the weight of it with to have a different color into our shader. So what we would like maybe is play with reddish values, increase the weight of it, and you see that in the side you have interesting colors that will appear. Maybe we can change the color itself, okay, to have just a gradient into that, not something too much, but just have a gradient, and it can really change the ambient of what you want to add, okay. Maybe I just want a gradient with something that is not that far in the wheel, like something like this, okay, and we have a nice paint already. Good, so this will be the paint here, and I would like to add the rust, and the rust will be here. So basically the rust, I may Control Shift click to see what's happening here. I will make something that is dark with a dark color here, okay. Let's say something like that. So this could be the basic color, but I will make something a little more interesting with more complexity inside it, not only a flat first color. So what I would like to add here is again a texture, and this texture will be a noise texture, okay. And we will add a color ramp as well. Maybe we will want to contrast this. So the color ramp is under the converter here, but you can search the nodes that you need if you remember the names. So I will plug this into that, and I would like to create new colors. So what I will do here, you can see that I have the result of the colors that I have here, and just with different colors here. So let's say you can copy just by take this information, don't click, just make Control C and you go there and now you have Control V. And you will make the same color for this one, okay? But slightly different, maybe darker, okay? To have something like that. And you can add another one here, and maybe this one might be lighter and more into the yellow, okay? And you will can create more interesting stuff with your texture like that, okay? You see that now we have already something that is more useful than before, maybe a little less here and more like this, okay? And now you will have this kind of behavior. So it can be very interesting to manage your colors for what you want. I will increase the details at 15 to have really something with more depth. Increase the scale as well to have something like that. Maybe less contrast in all of this, so something that will look more realistic. Okay. And yeah, again, don't change too much the colors. It's just something that have to look in a way like this. So here you can change the noise. For example, here it's a noise texture, but you could plug this in with something different, like another texture. Let's take a wave texture, for example. So here we have a wave texture. You can play with different settings here. You have the scene, you have the scale, you have the distortion. The distortion will look somewhere like this, so can be interesting as well. You have the details and you will have this kind of behavior. So yeah, it can really add other complexities here, like for example, now we'll have this kind of behavior, okay? So you can plug whatever texture you want here. Here a noise texture will make the work, but it was just to showing you it was possible to make this. So here we can plug this, and now we have this. We would like to play with the normals as well, and we don't have any normal map. And for that we don't use a normal map, we use a bump. So what we will do, we will make a bump like this, okay? Plug these informations from the noise texture into the bump, into the 8, and just plug this into the normals, and now you will have this kind of behavior like that, okay? That works well, but by default the distance is far too big, so maybe 0.1 might be enough, or even the strength of it, sorry, not the distance. So maybe 0.1, 0.3, let's say, to have something like this. Decrease a little the size again with the scale to have something more like that. And now you have something that looks more, starts to look more like what we want, okay? We can really increase the roughness for this one because we don't want any roughness, or you can again plug these informations into the roughness with a color ramp to not have too much of this. So let's go into the color ramp again, and we want something that is raw. So here that is raw, so here we don't want that much black information, so we will put them like almost white, light gray like this, and now we should have something that looks like that. And you can play with all of the settings to have more and more complex stuff there, okay? So something that we would like to create here now is the mixing texture. So we have basically two textures here, but we want the third one. And this third one, you can even mix textures to make it good. So for example, let's add a new noise texture again. Good. And this time we'll not use only one, we'll increase the details. I got 15, and we will duplicate this. The first one will look like this. We will add here really a mix color, and we will put this one with the scale at maybe 10, and another with the scale out. We will keep 5 maybe. And we would like to mix them together, not with this mixing factor by default, but with the multiply and add the dark values here, okay? So like this, we will have something that will not look repetitive like we had before. And what we could play with, we will add again a converter color ramp, and we will contrast this to tell the part that will be in white will be the parts with the rust, okay, like this. If we had only the first one, it would be like this. So not that interesting. If we had only the second one, it would be like that. Not that interesting as well. So yeah, you can see that here it will not be repetitive even if we increase the scale values here. So yeah, it's a good one to have this kind of nice nice mixing stuff like that. So really you have in that case to increase this, yeah, until you find the right value. I think here it's not bad to mix the two materials. And now I will add a shader, mix shader. I will mix this one to that one, okay? And I can plug this color here. So now I will have basically something like that. I want the invert, so I can invert that just by making this, okay? Or I can invert that with a node that is made for that. And it's the invert value. Invert color here, okay? And you can see that it works pretty well. So now I have the rust and I have the paint. What I can do as well is use the bump here to make the holes look a little more realistic and more prominent. So for that, I will use these informations here and plug this as a displacement value. So here in that case, I will add a displacement node like this. And I will can plug this color just to see how it will work into the height. So let's go for that, and we can plug the displacement here. So what it will do, it will just increase a lot some vertices and move a lot some vertices, but what we don't want is to move really the surface, but create just kind of almost like a normal map. So we'll go back into the material settings here. We don't want the displacement and bump, we just want the bump only. Like this, it will just on a flat surface. So for example, if I take just this surface here, just on a flat surface, it will create that, okay? So me, I want maybe the scale to be a little less, because here it's too much. So 0.01 might be enough, just something like that. And you see, you have really this kind of nice mixing here that will really help to create something more natural in the end. So now you have really this bump that comes out. And now you can increase that in case you want. Maybe 0.05 might be good. And look, you have this nice effect on the edge that shows that the damage into the paint, that it's really under the paint and not above the paint. So it's interesting to play with that. If, for example, if it will not look realistic, but if, for example, if we would like to put the rust outside and above, so we could play with another invert, color invert. And now it will be outside. In some cases, it could be good. Like for example, in if we go here and replace the base color by just a metallic color, something around there, old metal. Okay, increase the metallic option, you will have this. And this, in that case, the rust that goes out might be good. Okay, but in the way that we did use it, we can just remove the factor of the invert, and now we have really something that looks really nice. So it's just an example on how to make procedural shaders. You see that you have some stuff that are going on. So basically what we have first, we have the noise texture that creates a color ramp to create the color of the rust, a color ramp to create the roughness of the ramp, and a bump to create the bump of the rust. And then after we have the shader like this of the rust. Now we have the noise texture that creates the roughness of the color, the roughness of the paint here, and we have the paint itself like this. And then after we have two noise textures that are multiplied with each other to avoid here the when you have really this this repeat effect when you go with only one texture. So with two textures with different scales, it will work perfectly. And now we have a color ramp to contrast this, the invert color to make the color as we want to mix the shader like that. And we have the two shaders here, and the same informations goes through the displacement here to create the bump and receive the rust under the paint. So that's how it works for this shader here. But we have a lot of other possibilities as well with procedural material, procedural shaders. I could go deeper in this, but it will take an entire course for that. So there are a lot of stuff. The way you see that in textures, we did use only two kind of textures. We did use the noise textures and a wave texture just to show you how it works. But you have, for example, the Voronoi texture that is very good to create, for example, this kind of pattern here. So if you go into 12, you will have this kind of pattern that appear, and it will be very good for hammered material, hammered shaders. For example, if I just want to create a hammered copper, for example. So let's go into a new shader, and this one will be a principled. So this will be our metallic shader. We don't want now in the end of it the displacement, so I will just unplug this with a control right click here. And here I would like to play with the shader to create a kind of copper material. Okay, so I increase the metal, choose the right color, maybe it's a little too like this. Okay, choose the roughness as we want. And now I would like to use this Voronoi texture to create some bumps. So let's go for that. I will go and find a converter color ramp as usual. Always useful when you play with these textures. And outside of it, it means you can increase or decrease the informations of black and white, or even change the color if needed. And now I can just go with a bump, a vector bump. So the height will be the end of the color here, and the normal will go there. So by default, what we will have is something like that. It's already not bad, a little too strong in my opinion. So let's go with the strength at 0.1, and look at this. You have a hammered material, very easy to manage. Okay, so you have a hammered shader. So all these textures can be very useful to show different ways of mixing stuff, or add some normal information, some roughness information, metallic informations. that to mix that to mix this. So yeah, it's very important to understand a little how works these textures. Another example here would be maybe with the textures here. So we have the white noise to hide some noise. We have the wave texture, I did show you that. The sky texture is not for this. The point density as well is not really interesting. You can add an image texture, but you can just click and drag as we did see like before. You have the magic texture here that creates stuff like this or a factor like that, so sometimes can be interesting. You can play with the depths to have different possibilities, or the distortion too, to have this kind of crazy patterns, so can be useful as well. You have the gradient texture to create just a gradient, and with Ctrl-T you can manage the rotation of not the rotation, sorry, it will not be that one, it will be that one. For example, if you want to change the rotation of this texture, you will have to manage it with Ctrl-T and there's two mapping nodes here. So for example, it can be very good to add some stuff as well. You have here another texture that can be useful, gay bar texture, and you see the result here. So again, you can play with the scale, the frequency here. So it's kind of wavy material, very interesting. You can play with the anisotropic and the values of the orientation. So yeah, all of this, it's really useful to mix stuff in Blender. And you have the brick texture that can be useful. It says what it is, the brick texture. You have this, and you have different colors. This one is a little more complex, but you have different colors. Like for example, you could add this kind of color, brick color here, a second brick color, but a little different, maybe somewhere around here. And you have the mortar that you can play to have something that will work well, and you have the factor that goes out from it. You can play with this to add some bump into your shader, for example. So yeah, it was just little ways to show you how works. There's different settings here. Already you know how to make some copper with a hammered copper, and here a nice shader with the displacement into it to have the rust under the paint. And that's it for this video. I hope you did enjoy how to create shaders and materials in Blender. In the next chapter, we will see how to manage UV mapping, so how to unwrap models, how to unwrap 3D models in a 2D space that will help us to catch the informations of the pixels of the textures that are behind. So we will see that in the next chapter. It's very important to know that. And then after, we will finally can paint into our objects.